What if the thoughts you believed were yours were never yours to begin with? What if the most personal parts of your mind, the dreams, the fears, the symbols, weren't personal at all? That might sound unsettling, even impossible. But consider this. You've had dreams of falling, of flying, of being chased by something you can't see. You've rooted for the hero in a movie you've never seen before and cried for characters that never existed. You've felt an instinctive fear in the dark and a deep calm when standing beneath the stars. Where did that come from? Before Carl Jung gave it a name, we didn't have the words, but we felt it. Something vast, something silent, a current underneath our lives. Jung called it the collective unconscious, not a metaphor, not a poetic flourish, a reality, a layer of the mind deeper than the personal unconscious, older than memory, shared by every human being on earth. This is the ocean beneath the surface of who you think you are. Jung believed it was more than influence, it was structure. That we don't just live our own stories, we live fragments of one enormous shared human story. A memory passed down not through words, but through time itself, through instinct, through symbol, through archetype, and the most powerful proof, you've already felt it. The dragon you faced in your dream, the stranger who seemed familiar, the ancient myth that somehow explained your life better than your own diary. None of these are accidents. They're echoes, recurring patterns, blueprints, Jung wrote. The collective unconscious contains the whole spiritual heritage of mankind's evolution, born anew in the brain structure of every individual, which means this: you were never just you were always part of something bigger, something timeless. You've never truly been alone, not even in your own mind. And the strange comfort is this: the most intimate things about you may also be the most universal, because you're not just floating in this ocean, you are the ocean. Your mind carries a library you never built. It's not made of facts or opinions. It isn't shaped by the books you've read or the memories you've made. This library was already there, before your name, before your language, before you had the words to ask where you came from. Jung called this the collective unconscious. But don't let the term intimidate you. It's simpler and stranger than it sounds. Imagine this. A woman dreams of a wise old man standing at the edge of a forest offering her a key. She's never seen this figure before. But when she describes him to her therapist, she's told that versions of this dream have been recorded around the world. The setting changes, the costume changes, but the character is always the same, the wise old guide. Now multiply that across every dream, every story, every culture. A mother shielding her child, a shadow chasing someone down a hallway, a hero stepping into danger alone. These are not random inventions, they are psychic instincts, recurring characters in the human condition. And if that sounds fantastical, remember this. Jung saw it first in patients. People who, without any exposure to mythology or history, would describe images and scenes that matched ancient symbols almost exactly. They dreamed in myth. They saw visions of sacred animals and battles between light and dark. They found symbols that showed up later in forgotten texts, patterns they couldn't possibly have learned. So where did it come from? According to Jung, these weren't coincidences. They were expressions, memories too deep for words, psychological DNA. The collective unconscious is not a metaphor. It's a framework, a blueprint buried beneath the surface of your personality. It shapes how you understand fear, how you react to beauty, how you sense when something is sacred. And what makes this so important isn't just that it exists, it's that it connects you to everyone else. Because if you inherited a library of symbols, and so did I, and so did the stranger you'll never meet on the other side of the world, then we are all reading from the same pages. We may speak different languages, but the story underneath is shared. This is why the same myths appear across the globe. This is why the same fears rise in our dreams. This is why art from centuries ago can still move us today. It's not nostalgia, it's recognition. Your mind is not a closed room, it's a cathedral built by generations, lit by the same fire that burned in the first storytellers. And if that's true, then even your loneliness isn't truly yours, it belongs to all of us. And so does your hope, so does your wonder, so does your story. There's a reason stories feel familiar, even when they're new, a reason we instinctively know the hero from the villain, why the wise guide feels trustworthy, even before they speak. Why the nurturing mother feels sacred, the trickster unnerving, the shadow terrifying. These aren't just characters on a page, they're ancient roles in a psychic theatre you were born into. Jung called them archetypes, not learned but inherited, patterns older than memory, embedded in the collective unconscious. And they don't live in books, they live in you. The hero, the one who leaves behind comfort, answers the call and steps into danger. The one who falls, breaks, transforms and returns changed. The hero isn't just found in myth, the hero is who you become when life demands courage. The mother, the force of safety, nourishment, protection. She can appear in countless forms, a literal mother, a wise woman, the earth itself. She is every presence that nurtures life and holds you when you can't hold yourself. The shadow, the part of yourself you don't want to see. It's anger you hide, jealousy you deny, pain you bury. It shows up in dreams, in projections, in the people you irrationally dislike. And the less you confront it, the more it owns you. The wise old man or woman, the inner sage, the voice you hear in moments of clarity, the mentor in a film who knows the path you haven't walked, the internal compass that doesn't shout but guides, the trickster, the rule breaker, the rebel, the joker, the one who tears down so something new can emerge, unpredictable, chaotic, often misunderstood but necessary. The anima and animus, the feminine within the masculine within the feminine, the part of you that whispers across the boundary of identity. It appears in dreams as a guide, a muse, a challenger. It asks you to grow, to balance, to integrate what you've disowned. And above them all, the self, the wholeness you're becoming. The unification of all these characters, all these opposites into a single, integrated being. It is not perfection, it is completion. You didn't choose this cast, you inherited it, and you live it out whether you know it or not. You project the shadow onto people you distrust. You search for the wise one when you feel lost. You become the hero every time you face something that scares you and choose not to run. These patterns are not stereotypes, they are truths, rooted in biology and story and soul. They are why a film in a foreign language can make you cry, why a stranger's story can feel like your own. They're why you can read an ancient myth and feel as though it somehow remembers you, because these roles don't belong to one culture, they belong to all of us. The names change, the costumes shift, but the drama is the same. And once you see it, you'll start noticing it everywhere. Not just in movies or books, in yourself. And that's the beginning of something powerful, because once you recognize the archetype you're living, you can begin to rewrite the script. Long before books, long before nations, long before even language as we know it, there were stories. Stories told around firelight, stories whispered from parent to child, stories carved into stone and sung in the dark. And what's astonishing is not just how many stories there are, but how many of them are the same. Civilizations that never met on opposite sides of the world told the same tales. A great flood that wipes the earth clean, a mother who gives birth to a divine child, a hero who descends into darkness and returns changed, a trickster who breaks the rules and exposes the truth. The names differ, the gods wear different faces, but the pattern, the heartbeat, is identical. This isn't coincidence, it's memory. Not of events, but of experience, psychological truth wrapped in metaphor, human emotion encoded in symbol. The myths didn't survive because they entertained, they survived because they explained. And what they explain is you, why you fear what you fear, why you yearn for transformation, why you cry at redemption even if it's fiction. Joseph Campbell called it the monomyth, the hero's journey. One story told through infinite variations, a call to adventure, a refusal, a descent, a trial, a return. You see it in Gilgamesh, in Buddha, in Harry Potter, in Frodo Baggins, in Luke Skywalker, in every person who's ever suffered, endured, and come back stronger. And if it's everywhere, maybe it's not just a story. Maybe it's a map, a sacred blueprint coded into the human soul. And you've been following it longer than you realize, but myths don't only live in history or on screens. They show up in your dreams. People around the world, across continents, languages and religions, dream the same dreams. Falling, flying, being chased, finding hidden rooms, speaking to the dead, meeting strange guides. These are not coincidences, these are echoes of shared experience. Even if you've never read a myth in your life, you've still lived one. Every time you begin again after loss, every time you face your shadow and survive, every time you protect someone you love, you're acting out an ancient tale. The myth isn't something you read, it's something you are. And when you finally see that, when you realize that your story was always part of a much older story, you start to understand something even more profound. You are not small, you are not separate, you are not a fluke or an accident. You are a living sentence in humanity's oldest poem, and somehow it knows your name. For a long time, the collective unconscious sounded like poetry. Mysterious, beautiful, impossible to prove, but science has a way of catching up with myth. And now, more than ever, the data begins to echo the dream. Researchers have found that infants just months old respond with fear to images of spiders and snakes. They recoil, their pupils dilate, and they've never seen one before. No trauma, no lesson, just instinct. Something ancient that wakes up when danger appears. And it's not taught, it's remembered. Across cultures we see the same fears, the same joys, the same sacred patterns, the way humans grieve, the way we celebrate, the way we fall in love or fear the dark. It's almost identical. Our languages differ, but the emotional choreography of our lives, it's practically synchronized. Neuroscience reveals that our brains are wired to resonate with others. When you see someone cry, your brain mirrors their sadness. When someone laughs, the same part of your mind lights up as if the joke was your own. Mirror neurons, empathy encoded in our biology. We are built not just to connect, but to feel each other. Even in our sleep, we are synchronized. Dream research shows that people from wildly different backgrounds dream the same dreams. Falling, running, losing something important, meeting a guide, encountering danger, finding something hidden. These aren't just private hallucinations, they're shared scripts. Dreams are not static memories, they're myth in motion. Anthropologists have mapped stories told in remote villages that mirror those carved into the walls of ancient temples continents away. Flood myths, creation myths, hero tales, the same skeleton dressed in different skins. And when asked why, they all give the same answer. We've always known this story. Jung wasn't inventing something new, he was recognizing something old. Something every culture had already whispered, something science is only beginning to understand. Even modern therapy reflects this. In Jungian analysis, a dream about drowning isn't just stress. It's a descent, a call to face something buried, a stage in the hero's journey. A person might describe being hunted in a dream, and rather than ask, what caused this? The therapist asks, what part of you is doing the chasing? The myth isn't just studied, it's lived. This is why a person can experience real healing through symbolism, why drawing a mandala or facing a nightmare can bring peace. Because the unconscious doesn't speak in sentences, it speaks in symbols. And those symbols have been with us for thousands of years. The data may not prove the collective unconscious in a laboratory sense, but what it shows is even more powerful. It shows that beneath the details we are the same. We are dreaming the same dreams, feeling the same fears, grasping for the same truths. And that means this isn't just philosophy, it's biology, it's history, it's you. Because every time you've felt something you couldn't explain, every time a dream haunted you, or a story shook you, or a stranger's words echoed something you've never said out loud, that was the collective unconscious speaking through you, and you were listening. whether you knew it or not. There is a certain kind of loneliness that doesn't come from being without people. It comes from thinking your experience is too strange to be shared, too painful, too specific. It comes from the belief that no one else could possibly understand what it feels like to be you, but Jung offers a different vision, one that says the very things that isolate you might be the proof that you belong, because your suffering, your dreams, your story, all of it has been felt before, maybe not in your town, maybe not in your time, but somewhere someone stood in the same fire. Someone else walked through that same night. You were never alone in the dark. You were just unaware of the others walking beside you. The collective unconscious is more than a theory. It's a quiet promise that the things you struggle to articulate have already been written in the ancient language of symbol and soul, that you are a chapter in a story far older than your life. And what makes that story powerful is not its scale, but its intimacy, because it speaks in the exact metaphors your heart understands. It tells you, in silence, that your path is not new and your burden is not unique. It tells you that even now, as you listen to these words, you are walking in a rhythm shared by countless others. You are the hero, still rising. You are the mother, still giving. You are the shadow, still hiding. You are the child, still yearning. You are the wise one, still guiding. You are the trickster, still laughing. You are the self, still becoming. And none of that separates you from others. It binds you. Jung believed that true healing comes not from escaping our darkness, but from integrating it. The wholeness is not about perfection. It's about remembering everything you are and embracing it, even the parts you were taught to ignore. And when you do that, when you remember that your dreams, your pain, your story are echoes of a shared humanity, you begin to feel it, the connection, the thread, the hidden ocean beneath everything. So if this moved you, it's not because it taught you something new, it's because it reminded you of something old, something you already knew, something buried deep and stirring again. And if it reminded you, it will remind someone else, because you're more connected than you know, and you always have been.